Imagine a man who was born and raised in the same place that Liam Neeson is from, wants Northern Ireland to be British. He builds bombs and shoots up an Irish Catholic church in Boston to further his English nationalist ends. Is he Irish because he was born and raised in Ireland? Is he British because he's a loyalist? Would that then make Liam Neeson British since they're both from the same place? If everyone involved was from Northern Ireland, which is a part of the UK, does that mean an Irish person shot Irish people, a British person shot Irish people, or a British person shot British people? I'm gonna need to turn the comments off for this one. During the civil rights movements in the United States, activists came up with the term Asian Americans as a banner under which people of wildly different backgrounds could work together. But May was designated as Asian American Heritage Month not because of community organization to make it so, but because the first documented Japanese immigrant arrived to California in May of 1843, and the Transcontinental Railroad was completed by Chinese and Irish workers in the United States in May 1869. There's a not inaccurate accusation that East Asian Americans are overrepresented in media in the United States, but Asian Europeans, which is a weird term to say even when not taking into account the lack of alliteration in media, are overwhelmingly South Asian. Non-Americans of Asian descent like Gemma Chan and Simu Liu sometimes refer to themselves as Asian Americans because there's not really a globally relevant term, like maybe Asian diaspora? I used the term API in my last video because I didn't know what other term to use, and boy, I could not have dropped that on a worse day. But one thing that links us is we're not good at making waves, and that's part of the reason that the shooting of 2 Korean hairdressers and a Korean hair salon customer has barely gotten any headlines. And I'm not saying that the 10 deaths in Buffalo are any less important. What happened at the supermarket was a modern-day lynching based on a white supremacist conspiracy theory, and that needs to be said more. I'm saying that there were actually 3 hate-motivated shootings last week. The Department of Justice defines a hate crime as a criminal offense committed against a person, property, or society that is motivated in whole or in part by the offender's bias against a religion, race, disability, sexual orientation, or ethnicity. Nowhere does it mention the race, religion, sexual orientation, or ethnicity of the perpetrator. There's not a country full of good people like there's no race full of good people, and nowhere is this more clear than the shooting at the Taiwanese church in Laguna. Now, just for full disclosure, I'm not Christian, and I very much disagree with church politics. I've also lived pretty much my entire life in Canada and the United States, and those are the only countries in which I hold citizenship. My family is a mix of Korean, Japanese, and Chinese, and on that last note, quick vocabulary lesson. This is the People's Republic of China, which I will refer to as the mainland in order to avoid confusion with the Republic of China, which I will refer to as Taiwan. People who were forced to relocate to Taiwan from the mainland between the years of 1945 and 1949 are referred to as Waishengren, to distinguish them from Benshengren, who moved to Taiwan before 1945 and does not refer to the indigenous Taiwanese peoples. They are a whole other thing. And now for a grossly oversimplified history lesson. When the Japanese surrendered in World War II, the Allies handed control of Taiwan to the Republic of China, which was led by the Chinese Nationalist Party. Locals were frustrated by what they perceived as corruption by the CNP officials, and I am not using that word to insinuate that it didn't happen because I'm pretty sure it did. I mean, there are no uncorrupt governments in the entire world. Anyways, tensions boiled over into the Ba massacre, which led to an almost 4-decade period of political suppression and martial law known as the White Terror 2 years later. During those 2 years, the Chinese Civil War ended with the Chinese Communist Party forming the People's Republic of China on the mainland, and the CNP retreating to Taiwan in order to rule it as the, quote, one true China, which is why the words Republic of China is on every Taiwanese passport even today. So nobody my age really distinguishes between Wai Shengyuan and Bin Shengyuan anymore, but the shooter was in his 60s, so he would have grown up when the tension between the two groups would have been at their highest. He was born and raised in Taiwan as the former and even served in the Taiwanese military. How much of his hatred for Taiwanese people was a result of that political tension? How much of it was resentment that his wife left him? How much of it was because of cranial trauma from a beating he suffered recently? I don't know. This wouldn't be the first time that neurological damage has caused great violence. One of the first school shootings in the United States may have been caused by an undiagnosed tumor in the perpetrator's brain. Also, unrelated aside, while I was researching the University of Texas shooting, one of the sentences I read was, at the time, the attack was the deadliest mass shooting by a lone gunman in U.S. history, being surpassed 18 years later by the San Ysidro McDonald's massacre, which led me to, at the time the massacre was the deadliest mass shooting by a lone gunman in U.S. history, being surpassed 7 years later by the Luby's shooting, which led me to, at the time the shooting was the deadliest mass shooting by a lone gunman in U.S. history, being surpassed 16 years later by the Virginia Tech shooting, which led me to, it was also the deadliest modern U.S. mass shooting until it was surpassed 9 years later by the Orlando nightclub shooting, which finally led me to, it is the deadliest blah 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 blah, until the 2017 Las Vegas shooting, which... Okay, so to be clear, I'm not saying that brain damage is the cause of what happened. I'm just saying it may have been a cause, because it doesn't make sense. This is a man who was born and raised in Taiwan, who may have grown up with some of the people he hated to the point of homicide. But since when has ethnic hatred ever made sense? Stop Asian Hate, or API hate, means all Asians and all Pacific Islanders, including when an Asian or Pacific Islander is the one committing the crime.